Hello everyone, welcome to Postcard Buddhism, the best channel for sharing knowledge about Buddhism. Today we will talk about the topic, who will go to hell according to Buddhism. This intriguing subject will explore the Buddhist perspective on hell and the actions that lead individuals to such a state. Stay tuned as we delve into the teachings and insights that shed light on this profound aspect of Buddhist philosophy. Who will go to hell according to Buddhism? Heaven and hell. The Bible states that God created the first humans from clay and placed them in the Garden of Eden, which contained all the good things one could enjoy, including the tree of life that granted eternal life. However, Adam and Eve, the first humans, fell from grace by listening to the cunning serpent. They disobeyed God's command and ate the forbidden fruit. This marked the beginning of human suffering. God expelled them from the Garden of Eden, preventing them from eating the fruit of the tree of life. From that moment, humanity began to experience all kinds of suffering: birth, aging, sickness, death, and the numerous pains of survival. Yet this disobedience also sparked a glimmer of hope for humanity to return to God. According to the Bible, eating the forbidden fruit gave humans the knowledge to distinguish between good and evil. During their long exile, they had the chance to avoid evil and turn towards good. God promised that those who did good and believed in Him would return to His kingdom. The kingdom of God, or heaven, is the ultimate aspiration for believers, as it is believed to be free from the ceaseless suffering of the present life. It is considered the only path to end worldly suffering and receive God's eternal blessings. To reach heaven, one must do good deeds and have faith in God. Hinduism, along with many ancient Indian religions, also believes in a creator God, Brahman, and a blissful heaven for those who do good and worship Brahman. Muslims are taught by their prophet Muhammad that there is a heaven for those who believe in Allah, practice charity, fast, make a pilgrimage to Mecca, follow Islamic rituals, and live righteously. The path to heaven is a seven-arched bridge that only the faithful and righteous can cross. Those who commit sins and lack faith will fall into hell. Generally, most religions have similar concepts of heaven and hell. Heaven is promised as a reward for believers who follow religious teachings, while hell is depicted as a place of extreme suffering reserved for evildoers and non-believers. It includes terrifying punishments, such as being sawn in half, boiled in oil, or burned in flames. Hell is a warning for those who commit evil and lack faith. So heaven is seen as a deserved reward for the good, and hell as rightful punishment for the wicked. But what about those who do not belong to any religion? Would God's kingdom reject non-believers? Is there no place in heaven for those who deny Allah? And if they commit crimes, which hell will they be punished in? During the time of Buddha, the beliefs in heaven and hell were already established. However, Buddha reinterpreted these concepts and presented unique teachings that differed from other religions. Buddha did not acknowledge heaven and hell as rewards or punishments based on faith. Instead, he introduced the concept of karma to explain these realms. Thus, the Buddhist understanding of heaven and hell is different from other religions. Specifically, Buddha acknowledged a concept similar to heaven, known as the celestial realms or the heavens of the deities. The Buddhist understanding of the celestial realms differs from the concept of heaven in other religions. Buddha taught that being reborn in the celestial realms is solely based on the good deeds one performs, regardless of their religious beliefs. Anyone who practices the 10 wholesome deeds will be reborn in the celestial realms, enjoying pleasures and happiness, regardless of their faith. These 10 deeds are: 1. Not killing, but instead practicing compassion and releasing life. 2. Not stealing, but instead practicing generosity and sharing. 3. Not committing adultery, but instead being faithful to one's spouse. 4. Not lying, but instead speaking the truth. 5. Not using coarse language, but instead speaking meaningful and beneficial words. 6. Not gossiping or slandering, but instead speaking words that create unity and love. 7. Not speaking harshly, but instead speaking gently and kindly. 8. Not being greedy, but instead contemplating the impermanence of material wealth. 9. Not being angry, but instead practicing compassion and patience. Not being ignorant or having wrong views, but instead practicing wisdom and right understanding. These 10 wholesome deeds are universally seen as good, not exclusive to any religion. A society where everyone practices these 10 deeds can be seen as a paradise. There would be no crimes, and everyone would share and live in harmony. Thus, when people practicing these 10 deeds live together, it creates a celestial realm or heaven with all the joys and pleasures desired by humans. Buddha also taught that there are many celestial realms with varying levels of bliss. When someone practices the 10 wholesome deeds, they will be reborn in one of these realms according to their deeds. The more good deeds one does, the greater the reward and the longer the enjoyment in these realms. Thus, the celestial realms are not places of eternal pleasure. Continued enjoyment depends on continued good deeds. If one ceases to do good or begins to do evil, their merit will be exhausted, and they will fall into lower realms according to their evil deeds. Therefore, Buddhism does not see rebirth in the celestial realms as the ultimate goal to end suffering, as these realms are still within the cycle of birth and death. The practice of the 10 wholesome deeds is beneficial but still worldly, offering good results within the world. To end suffering and escape the cycle of birth and death, one must practice the teachings that transcend the world, known as the supramundane paths. These include the 4 Noble Truths, the 12 links of dependent origination, and the 6 perfections. These teachings aim to provide a true understanding of life, helping one to see the reality of suffering and the way to end it. Liberation in Buddhism is based on ending all suffering in life. Thus, the celestial realms or heavens are temporary reprieves from suffering and are not considered liberation. If heaven were truly a place free from all suffering, it would align with the Buddhist goal of liberation. However, Buddhism does not accept such a concept of heaven, and instead guides followers towards liberation through practicing the Buddhist teachings, such as the 4 Noble Truths, the 12 links of dependent origination, and the 6 perfections. The 4 Noble Truths are 4 fundamental truths about life: the truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the path leading to the end of suffering. These truths are undeniable and form the basis of the path to liberation. The 12 links of dependent origination describe the interconnected factors that lead to the cycle of birth and death. Understanding these links allows one to break the cycle and achieve liberation. The 6 perfections are 6 practices that transform one's mind and benefit others: generosity, moral discipline, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom. These practices lead to personal transformation and help others, ultimately leading to liberation. In summary, the concept of heaven does not equate to liberation in Buddhism. Similarly, the Buddhist understanding of hell is different from other religions. If the celestial realms are for those who practice the 10 wholesome deeds, hell is for those who commit the 10 evil deeds, such as killing, stealing, and committing adultery. Buddha taught that no divine judge sends people to hell. Our actions determine our fate. Committing the 10 evil deeds is like signing one's own sentence to hell. There are many hells with varying levels of suffering depending on the severity of one's actions. The scriptures mention different hells, such as Avitsi, the hell of uninterrupted suffering, the great hell of heat, the hell of great wailing, the hell of black ropes, and many others. The type of hell one is reborn into depends on their actions. No one can rescue us from hell except ourselves. Each wholesome thought can help us gradually leave hell and lessen our suffering. However, all the concepts of heaven and hell are from scriptures and books. Can we believe in these concepts? Some people believe them, while others need more concrete proof. In the following sections, we will explore different perspectives and views on these concepts, allowing each person to draw their own conclusions. Where is hell? In the book Queen Wintrit Chi, a Chinese text from the 11th century, there is a recorded conversation between Zen master Net Win Tombon and a skeptic who did not believe in the existence of hell. Master Tombon asked, "Have you ever had a dream?" The man replied, "Yes." Master Tombon continued, "In your dream, have you ever experienced joy, sorrow, pleasure, or pain?" The man answered, "Yes." Then Master Tombon asked, "During those moments of joy, sorrow, pleasure, or pain, was it your physical body that experienced these emotions?" The man responded, "Certainly not, because my body was lying still on the bed, unconscious. How could it feel joy, sorrow, pleasure, or pain?" Master Tombone concluded. So it is the mind that experiences these feelings. The realm of hell is similar. It is experienced by the mind and has no physical form, making it invisible. Yet, if we can feel unseen joy, sorrow, pleasure, and pain in a dream, how much more so in the spiritual realm after death? While this reasoning may not convince modern skeptics, it highlights the distinction between physical and non-physical realms in understanding hell. Moreover, the emotional experiences in a dream can remind us of the emotions we endure throughout a lifetime. Not only are the emotions in a dream elusive and intangible, but the joys and sorrows we experience in life are also often vague and hard to grasp, as we rarely take time to observe and analyze our inner feelings, despite their constant presence. Therefore, even in our current life, there are both physical and non-physical elements, or the realms of body and mind. While physical pain is easily recognizable, mental pain is personal, elusive, and difficult to describe accurately. Despite being elusive, mental pain is undeniably real. By introspection, each of us can recognize varying degrees of pain within our own minds. The term hell, used by the Chinese, is a translation of the Sanskrit word naraka. As with most translations, there are certain differences in the connotations of the terms in different languages. To the Chinese, hell is a place where sinners are detained and endure painful, torturous punishments. The term includes two meanings: prison, akin to a place of detention, and earth, indicating the location is deep within the earth. Traditional Chinese concepts of the afterlife, such as the Yellow Springs or the Nine Springs, are also imagined as underground realms. In Sanskrit, naraka refers to a place where one experiences great suffering and punishment, but extends this space into a distinct realm rather than just a place of detention, without implying it is deep underground. Thus, the term naraka seems broader and closer to the idea of a non-physical realm, a realm of mental anguish. In this sense, hell can exist in our current life when we endure severe mental anguish due to specific causes. It is when we feel joyless, despondent, and in pain. Whether there is a hell for evildoers after death can be set aside for now. But if we understand hell as a realm of mental anguish experienced in life, then no one can deny such a hell exists. Similar to physical punishments in the material world, ranging from warnings, suspended sentences, imprisonment, hard labor, to life sentences, the realm of hell can manifest through varying degrees of mental torment, from fleeting remorse and regret to prolonged, lifelong suffering. Leaving hell behind, even though we have put aside the discussion of hell after death, we cannot help but notice a similarity between the described state of hell and the mental anguish we experience. In other words, a hellish realm after death, if it exists, might just be an extension of our current experiences. Therefore, we can be glad to realize that if we can live in a way that frees us from the hellish realm in the present, then a hell after death, if it exists, will certainly not be our destination. Some people say, happiness is the temporary cessation of suffering. This statement, although not entirely accurate, somewhat reflects the reality of life, where joy is less and suffering is more. Even when we encounter great fortune, suffering seems to be the predominant experience in life. However, the suffering we encounter is not the same for everyone. Each type of suffering has a cause, and different causes lead to different experiences. Therefore, the law of cause and effect has often been understood as the relationship between good and bad deeds, and the results that will come later. But there is also an immediate relationship between an action and its impact on the doer, which we often overlook, even though it frequently occurs in life. For example, when we help a friend by doing their work while they are sick, this action is considered good karma and will bring corresponding good results in the future. For instance, someone might help us when we need it, or we might receive some good fortune. However, the immediate effect of the good deed is often overlooked. In reality, performing a good deed brings immediate satisfaction, a gentle joy from knowing we've done something good. This positive effect should be seen as part of the results of the action, perhaps even the most direct and tangible result that anyone can notice. In the Dhammapada, verse 18, the Buddha says, "Here he rejoices, hereafter he rejoices." In both states, the doer of good rejoices. He rejoices, exceedingly rejoices, seeing the purity of his own deeds, Thus, good deeds not only yield good results in the future, but we also receive immediate positive mental effects when performing them. If you have ever done a good deed, even a small one, you can easily recognize the joy that comes from doing good. This means there is a correlation between our actions and our immediate mental experiences. Conversely, there are actions that cause us to suffer, regret, or be tormented. Such actions can be seen as keys that open the door to hell. Furthermore, as mentioned earlier, our mental state determines our actions. Therefore, there is a close correlation between different mental states and the tendency to perform different actions, leading to various outcomes. In conclusion, the complex links we have examined eventually point back to a starting point: a light, tranquil heart or a heavy, depressive heart. These mental states are the fundamental sources of our feelings of joy, sorrow, pleasure, and pain. Fortunately, we can actively cultivate positive mental states, leading to a light and tranquil heart through our own efforts in the right direction. There are 3 harmful factors in our hearts that drive us toward negative tendencies: greed, anger, and ignorance, collectively known as the 3 poisons. 2 of these factors have been mentioned earlier as causes of mental obscuration, leading to heavy and depressive states. This further highlights their harmful correlations. As stated, when they cause a heavy and depressive state, they simultaneously create a tendency to perform negative actions. Furthermore, while ignorance is a state of lacking knowledge and wisdom, it is also an inevitable result of greed and anger. When greed and anger dominate our hearts, we inevitably lose our clarity and fall into ignorance. Thus, our starting point for escaping hell is to limit and eliminate greed, anger, and ignorance. Greed is a demanding master. We can never satisfy it, yet most of us are its slaves to varying degrees. When greed arises, it obscures our reasoning, and the urge to possess becomes an obsession. The power of greed can vary depending on its object, but it generally creates a desire to possess and a longing for the object. This desire usually grows over time until it completely dominates our will, leaving us no choice but to do whatever it takes to acquire the object. The objects of greed are not easy to measure or fully comprehend. They include tangible things like money, property, and vehicles, which have visible value. Greed also extends to intangible things like fame, respect, and admiration, which cannot be seen or valued but are equally compelling. Moreover, the possessive consciousness driven by greed can be so unreasonable that we fail to recognize it as greed. For example, in relationships, besides mutual affection, there is often a possessive consciousness. This makes a wife think her husband is hers, prompting her to protect this possession at all costs. Analyzing this logically, it seems unreasonable because the bond should be based on mutual feelings. However, in reality, this possessive consciousness persists because it stems from greed, wanting to possess the other person. Without greed, we cannot explain many extreme reactions, like jealousy, where people act irrationally, often justified by loving too much. Greed's influence on us is continuous and long-lasting. Once we develop a liking or desire for something, we become slaves to greed. From then on, our thoughts and actions are silently influenced by this desire, constantly seeking ways to satisfy it. This influence continues even after we acquire the object, shifting to a phase of possession and protection. We won't allow anyone else to take what we have, and we'll do whatever it takes to keep it. Generally, greed's influence ends only when we grow tired of the object and no longer desire it. This observation is the principle for countering greed. For material possessions, we should contemplate their impermanence and insignificance compared to higher spiritual values, leading to disinterest and freedom from greed's influence. Similarly, for fame and respect, we should realize they don't bring true happiness or peace, but instead cause complications. Recognizing this, we become disinterested and free from greed's influence. For those renouncing worldly desires, the Buddha taught contemplation of the body's impurities. By viewing the body as a collection of impure elements, realizing its impermanence, we develop disinterest and free ourselves from greed. Greed is a natural tendency, often accepted without question. Some see it as a necessary motivation for success, mistaking ambition for greed. Ambition helps us improve ourselves and our surroundings without clouding our minds, unlike greed, which always seeks possession and obscures clarity. Understanding greed and its harms helps us recognize and counter it, freeing our hearts from its burden. Anger is the second harmful factor. Like greed, everyone has anger. We don't notice it unless something goes against our will, meaning our ego isn't challenged. But this is impossible in life. Even with absolute power, we can't control everything, and many events are beyond our control, often frustrating us. Thus, life provides fertile ground for anger. Whenever someone does something against our will, or something doesn't go as we want, we easily become angry, with varying degrees of intensity. When anger arises, it first controls our reason and emotions. We can't think or judge clearly and focus on satisfying our anger, pushing aside other feelings. A normally cherished child might get a harsh slap if they annoy their father in his anger. Understanding this, we shouldn't be surprised that reasoning and emotions rarely influence an angry person. Watching an angry person from a distance, we see clear changes in their actions, speech, and appearance, driven by an unseen force, with calmness absent. Thus, an angry person lives in a different mental realm, with their heart burning with rage. This heat often shows physically with increased body temperature, sweating, and a flushed face. While greed's feature is possession, anger's feature is destruction. Anger drives a need to destroy, often without a specific target or with many targets. Sometimes people feel everyone is against them or the target is absent. Thus, an angry person might destroy anything within reach, even irrationally. Destruction doesn't end anger but intensifies it. Seeing the aftermath of their anger often makes people angrier, as if blaming the destruction on their target. Possession doesn't satisfy greed, and destruction doesn't end anger. Anger ends when it cools down and we regain calm. This observation is the principle for countering anger. To prevent anger, reasoning or emotions are ineffective. The only effective method is calmness. You can achieve calmness in many ways, but the best is isolating yourself, sitting alone. Sit still without thinking about the cause of your anger. Just 10 to 15 minutes of this can mitigate many harms of anger. Once calm, you can use reason and emotions. Thus, those practicing meditation rarely get angry. Anger is like a stirred glass of water, while meditation calms it. Daily meditation makes anger less likely to control you even in frustrating situations. Both greed and anger cloud our minds, driving us to irrational or unethical actions. Eliminating them lightens our hearts, freeing us from their harmful influence. Greed and anger lead to ignorance, a lack of wisdom. Once we eliminate greed and anger, our minds become clear again. Ignorance is another harmful factor, similar to greed and anger. Ignorance is a lack of knowledge and understanding, which comes from learning. Without learning, ignorance naturally exists. Without learning, we can't recognize and counter greed and anger, letting them grow. As a result, more greed and anger lead to more ignorance. This cycle can only be broken by self-effort to gain wisdom, countering ignorance. Learning helps us understand and address problems, reducing ignorance. Thus, ignorance, though last, is the most crucial harmful factor. As analyzed, without countering ignorance, we can't recognize and eliminate greed and anger. Conversely, countering ignorance helps us recognize and counter greed and anger, progressing spiritually. These three harmful factors summarize the causes of all evil. Thus, the Buddha taught, without greed, anger, and ignorance, it is called wisdom. Who goes to hell? In the Dhammapada, verse 202, the Buddha teaches, there is no fire like desire, there is no evil like hatred. No fire like desire, no evil like hatred. Each of us has either been or is currently being consumed by the fire of desire and may continue to endure its burning for a long time. Each of us has also been or is currently drowning in hatred and delusion and may continue to be immersed in them for a long time. Realizing this is the first step towards opening the door to a brighter future. Only by correctly understanding reality can we initiate the right efforts to free ourselves from the evil in the present. Every individual inherently has the capacity to turn towards good or fall into corruption. Our perception of life determines which tendency we will lean towards, and thus also determines where our life will eventually lead. A life of indulgence, continually engaging in unwholesome actions, will inevitably fail to bring any true spiritual benefits. The material wealth gained through unwholesome deeds always serves to nurture and amplify greed, hatred, and delusion. Therefore, the visible harms of such actions are not as frightening as the invisible mental harms. As greed, hatred, and delusion are nurtured and grow stronger, those with unwholesome minds cannot find true peace in life. Every material satisfaction they experience is a dose of poison that further feeds their inner suffering. Once the mind is filled with suffering, no genuine joy can be felt. Such people are like those who turn their backs on the light, walking in darkness. Every action and thought of theirs is misguided, lacking the illumination of right understanding, and thus they move further away from the light of wisdom. Their future is inevitably bleak and filled with greater degradation. But not only is their future dark, they cannot have a truly good present either, despite appearances. Their minds are immersed in suffering caused by greed, hatred, and delusion. Thus, they find no joy, are disillusioned with life, and endure much mental anguish. What we are discussing here pertains to the mental aspect. Therefore, we can see that a wealthy person may not necessarily have a truly happy life. If their wealth is the result of unwholesome deeds, and their minds remain steeped in the greed they have nurtured while amassing wealth, genuine joy in the present is an impossibility for them. Wealth in abundance cannot help them escape the natural laws governing the mind. Consequently, they must bear the mental anguish brought about by their greed and unwholesome actions. This robs their minds of the peace necessary to experience true joy in life. Without true joy in life, disillusionment with life arises naturally. Why is this so? The false joys from material satisfaction are always temporary and fleeting. Life is not truly nourished by these false joys. It always requires genuine joy as a source of vitality. This explains why many poor people can still live happily and well, while some wealthy individuals feel each day is a heavy burden. Lacking joy, disillusioned with life, and enduring mental anguish, these are the characteristics of hell, Naraka. Thus, the presence of these factors in one's mental life is the manifestation of hell. Depending on the severity, we may use different names, but the essence remains unchanged. This understanding may be unfamiliar to some, who are used to thinking of hell as a dark, subterranean realm awaiting the wicked after death. However, it is hard to deny its reasonableness when compared to life's realities and when introspecting on one's own mind. The Buddha described 6 different realms in which all beings must undergo cyclic existence according to their karma. These realms include heavenly realms, where devas, gods, enjoy beauty and many blessings; the human realm, where we currently live; the Asura realm, inhabited by beings with godlike powers, but lacking the virtues and forms of devas; the Preta realm, filled with hungry ghosts suffering from extreme hunger and thirst due to their karma; the animal realm, where beings suffer according to their specific karma; and finally the hell realm, where beings live in states of joylessness, disillusionment, and immense suffering. Significantly, while other realms describe the physical forms of beings, the hell realm focuses solely on the suffering they endure. This suggests the non-physical nature of the hell realm, a mental state for all beings who commit evil deeds. Furthermore, descriptions of other realms mention varying lifespans. Devas live long lives. Animals often have short lives and face constant threats of death. However, the hell realm does not specify lifespans. Instead, beings remain there until their negative karma is exhausted. This might indicate that the hell realm reflects the negative karma of beings, dissipating when good thoughts arise. Many stories of individuals escaping hell align with this observation. One well-known story is that of Maudgalyayana's mother, Thandi, who was not a believer in the Triple Gem and committed many unwholesome acts. After her death, Maudgalyayana, a chief disciple of the Buddha known for his supernatural powers, saw her suffering in hell. Despite using all his powers, he could not save her and sought the Buddha's help. The Buddha then taught the Ulambana Vu Lan ceremony, a ritual of offering to monks on the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, during the period when monks conclude their rainy season retreat. Through the blessings of monks from 10 directions, Maudgalyayana's mother was inspired to generate good thoughts and was immediately freed from hell, reborn in the heavenly realms. This immediate liberation from hell suggests that viewing hell as a non-physical, mental state is accurate. Once good thoughts arise, the hellish state dissipates and the being is liberated. This also reminds us of Bodhisattva Kshitigarbha, who vowed to rescue all beings suffering in hell. Holding a staff and a pearl, he often appears in hell to inspire good thoughts in beings, thereby liberating countless beings from suffering. Another distinction between hell and other realms is that beings in hell do not create new karma. In other realms, beings continue to generate good or bad karma, but those in hell only endure suffering due to past negative karma until it diminishes or good thoughts arise, allowing them to escape. These differences highlight that the hell realm described in Buddhist scriptures is distinct from other realms. It is a unique mental state for beings who commit evil deeds, not a realm with various beings living specific lives like other realms. Whenever the mind of a being falls into evil karma, driven by greed, hatred, or delusion, their heart is engulfed by the negative karma, and hell appears. Conversely, when the mind awakens to the harm of evil karma, good thoughts arise and the hellish state disappears. Recognizing the presence of hell in our current lives, we see no need to worry about a hell after death. An afterlife hell would merely extend the suffering we failed to overcome in this life. As we each have the potential for good or corruption, understanding hell and the causes of falling into it ensures none of us would choose the path of suffering. Therefore, those who are immersed in suffering have chosen this path due to a lack of understanding of life and disbelief in the teachings of the enlightened ones. Without recognizing the right path or trusting a true guide, one inevitably goes astray. Suffering in life is undesirable, but most of us accept it because we don't realize that all suffering is self-inflicted. Material suffering results from our past bad deeds, and mental suffering is the natural outcome of unwholesome thoughts like greed, hatred, and delusion. Thus, our current material life reflects our past actions. Good deeds always yield good results, and vice versa, like an accurate calculation that no one can alter. Concurrently, our mental world reflects our good or bad thoughts. Understanding this, we would never foolishly trade the lasting joy of doing good for the temporary, false joy of material satisfaction. We can make concrete comparisons to see the right choice. For example, if a friend in need asks you to handle an important matter, you could easily lie about the cost and pocket a large sum. Alternatively, you could sincerely help without considering your own efforts, let alone deceive him for money. In the first case, you gain materially but suffer mentally. Anxiety over being caught, efforts to cover up, and guilt for dishonest gains. Your heart becomes heavier with each such deceit, leading to mental suffering and loss of peace. Thus, your gain does not compensate for your loss. In the second case, sincere help might leave you with less materially, but with no regret. You feel satisfied and peaceful, escaping potential sin and mental burden. Your small material loss is outweighed by significant mental gain. Choosing the first option indicates a lack of understanding or belief in these truths, stemming from ignorance. With enough wisdom, one cannot fail to see or believe in the truth. Therefore, we can decide whether to fall into corruption. We lose this ability only without enough wisdom, becoming controlled by unwholesome thoughts like greed, hatred, and delusion. Hell exists in this life. Observing our own minds reveals this truth. Each unwholesome thought opens hell's door, while each wholesome thought closes it. Once, a brash swordsman asked Zen master Hakuin about hell and heaven. The master asked, "Who are you?" The man replied, "I am a swordsman." The master sneered, "You, a swordsman? You look more like a beggar." The man angrily drew his sword. The master smiled and said, "Hell's door is open." Realizing the master's point, the man sheathed his sword and bowed. The master said, "Hell's door is closed. Heaven's door is open." Daily reflection on our thoughts, words, and actions reveals many times hell's door opens, and sometimes we step inside. Fortunately, turning away from hell immediately reveals heaven's door. However, we have fewer chances once life ends. Failing to close hell's door permanently in this life guarantees a bleak future. A wise person strives now to escape mental suffering, eradicating greed, hatred, and delusion as previously discussed. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who might benefit from it. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button, follow, and turn on the notification bell. This is how you can show your support for me. Once again, thank you very much. and see you in the next videos.